Michael Young says the mental health challenges Mobilians are facing is the main reason he decided to run for mayor. Donavette Eli says she spent the majority of her life helping and advocating for others at work and at home. Now she wants to do that for the entire city of Mobile. Fred Richardson has been on the Mobile City Council since 1997 and says he wants to continue pushing for change, not just for District 1, but for all citizens. Carlos Finley says his time on the bench as a judge and the work it took to get there has given him an understanding of what Mobilians need and how he could bring about change if elected as mayor. Mayor Sandy Stimpson has been in office for the last 7.5 years, and he says he's not done yet. There are projects he wants to complete and even more he wants to work on.
Incumbent Mayor Sandy Stimpson says he is a native Mobilian. He graduated from the University of Alabama and came right back to Mobile to work at his family's lumber manufacturing business.
Probably 40 years, and then decided, felt really a calling to get involved with city government, specifically being the mayor, and ran, and I was able to win.
Mayor Stimpson says if re-elected, he hopes to continue working on his vision for the city of Mobile.
At the very beginning, our slogan, it was just a campaign slogan, but it's something that we adopted really as the vision, and that was to create one Mobile to become a safer, more business and family-friendly city.
Focusing on crime.
Yeah.
There was at one point where you were hoping Mobile would be the safest city by 2020. We've had, an increase in violent crimes recently.
Yeah.
What are you hoping to do if reelected to curb some of that crime and make people feel more safe?
I would like to think that the majority of the things that we do could ultimately help curb crime. With the amount of money we're investing in parks and recreation, trying to give things for our young people to do. From the policing standpoint, we've made a pledge early on that we were going to invest in our first responders. And by that I mean we were going to give them the tools, the equipment, the training that they needed to get the job done.
Stimpson says another part of his plan is watching out for the health of Mobilians. As we continue to see widespread COVID transmission, he continues to urge people to get vaccinated.
The people today that have not gotten the vaccine, the trigger for them is going to be seeing something or experiencing something that they haven't experienced, and that may be a loved one getting deathly ill.
There was a disconnect at the beginning between the health department, your office, and that was surrounding testing and the closure of businesses. How has that improved?
At the beginning, we weren't sure whose turf the other one was actually on, but we pretty much know where the guardrails are now.
Stimpson says he's not done yet and wants to have a chance to deliver on promises he's made to improve the city and help residents.
We're getting more buy-in, more collaboration as we go along, which means to me that you can go at an accelerated rate. So the things that we hope to change in the future, I think that we can build upon the lessons that have been learned and do a better job going forward. And the future for Mobile has never been brighter.
You can see this full interview along with Mayor Sandy Stimpson's plans for improving the infrastructure in Mobile on our website, mynbc15.com. The room was filled with excitement when they heard that incumbent Mayor Sandy Stimpson was the projected winner tonight, and he says he's ready to serve the city of Mobile for the next several years.
We just won this thing.
Mayor Sandy Stimpson's campaign slogan this year was "Not done yet," and the city of Mobile seems to agree, with Mayor Stimpson getting a little more than 60% of the vote. Stimpson says he's probably going to take a day off tomorrow and then get right back to work on a lot of the projects he promised, including infrastructure projects, annexation, and allocating American Rescue Plan funds. While he thanked his supporters and staff, Mayor Stimpson also wanted the people who didn't vote for him to know he's going to work for them too.
I'm the mayor of everybody in the city of Mobile, no matter where you live or what you look like or what your party affiliation is. And we work hard at that. I mean, in the last 8 years, I don't think I've engaged in a single philosophical conversation that would be divisive from the standpoint of party politics.
And for the first time in the city of Mobile's history, this redistricting proposal has 4 of the 7 districts where the majority of voters are people of color.
Mobile Mayor Sandy Stimpson says redistricting is necessary after 2020 census data showed changes in the population both in number and location.
You know, every city councilor has various areas and constituent groups, you know, that he doesn't want to, maybe give up. But at the end of the day, we've had a decline in population, and the migration of population has moved to the west, so there's going to be changes.
To make these changes and come up with a first draft, Mayor Sandy Stimpson turned to consultant Jim Rossler, who assisted the city with its last 2 redistricting efforts and reached out to other Alabama cities like Huntsville.
We're trying to draw upon the experience that exists in the community for how do you do this process. So I feel real good about where we are at this point.
Mobile City Council President C.J. Small says evenly distributing the voters to each district is essential to the future success of the city. Mayor Stimpson spent the day meeting with each council member discussing this plan.
The Property Law Center, has sent a letter to Mobile, to the officials, stating that they are watching. And so the administration is very aware that the Property Law Center is watching the district lines and making sure that everything is fair, which I do believe that the administration is going to do their best to make sure everything is fair.
In the new proposal, districts 1, 2, 3, and 7 are all made up of 50% or more voters who are people of color.
Well, it's a big win for the city of Mobile, not just the African American community. I mean, it shows that Mobile can do things the right way, that the leadership here in Mobile, when we're all moving forward in the same direction, there's no telling what we can accomplish.
The city has until February 12th to complete this process. There will be public comment opportunities in the near future, and after the deadline, the council has 6 months to put the new plan in place. Kim?
Tonight's reality check. Alabama's Attorney General has started the process to impeach Clark County Sheriff William Ray Norris.
The AG's office says the investigation began more than a year ago. NBC 15's Laura Barczewski joins us now.
Laura, you spoke with the sheriff this afternoon.
Greg and Kim, Clark County Sheriff Ray Norris says he has nothing to hide. But Clark County residents I spoke with have a different story to tell, and they believe corruption at the sheriff's office has been going on for years.
Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall started the impeachment process of Clark County Sheriff Ray Norris, charging him with 4 instances of corruption in office and 11 instances of the commission of crimes involving moral turpitude.
I got it off the news same time y'all did, and then I got served from the AG's office. But I'm not allowed to make a statement. I've hired Mr. Joe Espy in Montgomery. He'll be making all the releases on my behalf.
Espy says Norris denies the allegations but could not comment further as they are currently going through the documents from the Attorney General.
Don't have anything to hide. The Attorney General gets these complaints and he has to follow up on them. And I don't have any hard feelings with his office. That's good guys up there and they do a good job.
Documents say Norris allegedly used his position to accept thousands of dollars from an individual whose business provided food to the Clark County Jail. Some of the other charges include filing a false 2019 Statement of Economic Interest form and failing to file a 2019 tax return. While he couldn't comment on the specifics in the document, I asked, were you shocked, surprised when this all kind of came around?
Well, when you're in politics, you get people filing complaints every day. Every time you arrest somebody, you make an enemy. And so that's just life in the political world of being sheriff. But I love Clark County, I love these citizens, and I never intend to embarrass my county doing anything wrong. So if the Attorney General has found something that's uncomfortable to him, then he has to go through the process, and that's what we have a court of law for. I am most definitely not above the law.
A resident of Clark County who wanted to remain anonymous disagrees with Norris, saying the county and the sheriff's office has a long history of corruption. She believes the investigation is long overdue.
I feel like it's just one small step in the right direction, and I hope that they use this as an example to the rest of the sheriffs in our state, that there's rules and laws that they have to follow too. They're not God. They can't just make up the rules as they go and follow some laws and not the other.
Another resident who also wanted to remain anonymous believes Sheriff Norris needs to be removed immediately.
I feel like that he is the most corrupt sheriff that has probably ever been a sheriff in Alabama. The amount of lives that he's ruined and people he's done, those people need to see justice and need to know they need to be able to trust again. They need to be able to trust our law enforcement, because that's what we've always been told, that, they serve and protect, and he didn't.
The Clark County administrator tells me they were not aware of any corruption going on in the sheriff's office. Greg?
Tonight in an NBC 15 News exclusive, 2 women are speaking out against former Clark County Sheriff Ray Norris. The Attorney General's office announced charges against Norris on Friday. NBC 15's Laura Barczewski joins us now. Laura, both of these women accused the sheriff of wrongdoing.
Andrea, both of these women tell me they've been through years of legal issues because of alleged actions by former Clark County Sheriff Ray Norris and want to tell their stories now that he's been indicted. Christy Seabree says her first interaction with former Clark County Sheriff Ray Norris was after a car crash that led to her being charged with attempted murder, which was later tossed out. She says the 2015 charge was retaliatory for making disparaging remarks about Norris on the 911 call.
Because if they will do it to someone like me, who had never even had a speeding ticket, there's no telling who all has been railroaded by that county just by the fact they knew something that was damning.
Christy says that's when she started looking into Norris, starting with his campaign funds, which she says didn't add up.
I do think that there was some heavy donation made by certain individuals, and in return, there were favors.
And after further research, she says she believed Norris was misusing his office and funding for personal gain. She says one example she found involved food for Clark County Jail inmates.
They formed their own company to look like a provider, so all the money was still coming in just as it was, and they were still able to use that money for self-gain, whether it was all cash related or just buying whole fillets for cookouts and fundraising and things of that nature. That's still not appropriate use of that money, as it's not feeding inmates.
Around that same time in 2015 and 2016, another woman, Tanya Butts, says Norris and a county judge who was also her former business partner used their power to take her companies from her. She says she was indicted on charges for stealing from her own companies and taken to federal court. The court found her not guilty on all charges.
They used their power for personal gain, and it wasn't just monetary, it was just power in the community. They did a lot of things that I would have never been charged. They never would have taken my companies from me if they would not have been the judge and the sheriff. And so mine was one of the cases, one of the things that they did.
Tanya's former business partner and judge has not been charged with anything. I called Norris Sunday afternoon, but was unable to reach him. Following the impeachment filing by the Attorney General's office in May last year, I spoke with Norris. He told us then he had nothing to hide.
And I never intend to embarrass my county doing anything wrong. So if the Attorney General has found something that's uncomfortable to him, then he has to go through the process, and that's what we have a court of law for. I am most definitely not above the law.
Norris resigned and is now indicted on charges of unlawful use of campaign contributions, use of office for personal gain, and income tax evasion. The Attorney General's office has not released details about the alleged crimes. Tanya and Christy say they want to see change.
We need to hold them accountable. I feel like that we need to have some things into place where it takes away from these sheriffs not to have this kind of power.
The Attorney General's office says Norris turned himself in to the Washington County Sheriff's Office Friday and was released on a $50,000 bond. If convicted, Norris could face anywhere from 2 to 20 years in prison. It's been 57 years to be exact. Democrat Frank Boykin held Alabama's first congressional district seat for 28 years. He left in 1963, and now there are 2 candidates hoping to make a change. Alabama Democrats will decide this Tuesday whether they want to see Kiani Gardner or James Averhart on the ballot this November. Kiani Gardner is a native Hawaiian, scientist, and mother raising her family here in Mobile.
I'm here because as a mom, I want the best for my kids. As a foster mom, I very truly can look any kid in the eye, know nothing about them, and say, I love you and I'm going to move mountains for you.
James Averhart is a Mobile native and retired commissioned officer of the United States Marine Corps.
I truly think that Congress do not properly represent Alabamians, more so partially the majority. So, I just felt the need and a desire to advocate and help the people.
Gardner's top 3 priorities are infrastructure, access to health care, and education.
We desperately need investments in infrastructure. Bridges and roads, sure. We also need to update our sewer systems to protect our waterways. We need to ensure broadband access in all of our rural communities. Finding ways to drive down costs for our patients, our consumers, immediately. That comes with price transparency. The other thing that we really need is we need to find ways to recruit more doctors to our area. We need someone, preferably an educator with experience in higher education, who knows what it takes to build up students, to build programs that lead to successful students, and to partner those programs with actual employers and give job placement to successful students.
Averhart's top 3 priorities are education, criminal justice reform, and health care.
I definitely want to, talk about education. That's very important to me as well. So, especially during a time like now, I don't think we should be going back into schools, and but there needs to be someone advocating. So I want to get in to be able to help the state and our local municipalities as it pertains to their criminal justice. I have some ideas that I would love to talk to our law enforcement experts about. As I travel the district, I have met people who having to pick and choose whether they pay their electric bill or buy medicine. That's very important, and that's a problem.
Both candidates say they hope those who haven't voted absentee will come out on Tuesday to cast their ballot. Their Republican opponents who are also running for the 1st Congressional District seat are Jerry Carl and Bill Hightower. Alabama Republicans will decide this Tuesday whether they want to see Bill Hightower or Jerry Carl on the ballot this November. Bill Hightower is a longtime resident of Southern Alabama, a small businessman, and a former Alabama state senator.
I've always wanted to make a difference in state politics and then also in federal politics. I've watched it my whole life. Now it's my time to engage and try to serve the people here in Alabama.
Jerry Carl says he was born here in Mobile, is an entrepreneur, and currently serves as the Mobile County Commission president.
With Bradley Burns actually stepping down and running for a Senate seat, I thought we needed to really focus on getting a strong conservative to go up there to replace him, and somebody that's certainly willing to work with President Trump and his agenda.
Bill Hightower says his top priorities are supporting pro-life legislation. He's against more taxes. He wants to support Southern Alabama's coastal community and building an I-10 bridge.
I'm going to stand with pro-life. I'm going to stand with religious liberties. I'm going to stand against taxes, too. We got a spending problem in D.C. We don't have a revenue problem. But I want to work on Austell. I'm going to support them, always have. I'm going to work on building that bridge. I want to work on our snapper rights and our fishery rights. But we have some big problems in Washington, D.C., and I want to go and deal with them like I did when I was in Montgomery.
Jerry Carl says his top priorities are issues surrounding immigration, supporting the Second Amendment and pro-life initiatives, and fixing VA health care.
I think we can change up our immigration laws a little bit. I'm very, very big on the Second Amendment. I've been a gun owner my entire life, and I own many, many guns. The abortion issue, I'm certainly pro-life. I still, for the life of me, cannot understand how someone could kill a baby in the womb that way. And VA health care, which is one of the closest topics that has probably touched me with my son, who's having to fight to get through the VA health care.
As a reminder, absentee ballots must be returned tomorrow. The polls open Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. Andrea. We are live here at Jerry Carl's downtown campaign office, which is just down the road where he is having his watch party tonight at 7 p.m. at Old Majestic Brewing. Jerry Carl is in the running for the 1st Congressional District, and he is running against James Averhart. Mr. Carl joins me now. You were at the polls all day today. Tell me how you're feeling heading into tonight.
We're feeling very positive. The polls we went to were primarily Republican polls. It's just been a huge turnout. So we're excited that obviously works for our benefit. It works for Coach Tuberville's, and it works for the president. So we're excited at some of the numbers we're going to see out of it.
And what do you want to say to your supporters? You know, this has been a long campaign trail, about 2 years. What do you want to say to them who've been with you?
Thank you for having the patience. I mean, thank you for all the effort and the hard work. I mean, we've had a team of folks making phone calls for the last year. We've had folks passing out signs, knocking on doors. Just thank you, thank you, thank you. I could not have possibly dreamed of making this work and being here tonight in a good, solid position without just tons of volunteers and help.
And what's one thing, you know, if you're elected that you want to make sure happens when you get into office, if you're elected?
I would like to see the Bayway Bridge finished. That project brought back to life and actually finished. So that's one of the top of my list.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Carl. We'll be back at the watch party tonight, and we'll bring you live coverage from there. Reporting live in downtown Mobile, Laura Barczewski, NBC 15 News. Congressmen and political analysts tell me keeping all 7 congressional seats in Washington, D.C. means the state will continue to have a seat at the policymaking table, but there will be some changes. The 2020 census shows Alabama's population has grown to about 5.03 million, just enough to keep all 7 congressional seats in the U.S. House of Representatives.
We came, within 1 or 2 states of losing seats, but we gained just enough population to hold our own.
Representative Mo Brooks thanked citizens in a statement, saying, quote, "Fortunately, by the slimmest of margins, Alabama citizens filled out their census questionnaires at rates high enough to dodge a political bullet." Representative Jerry Carl says this is great news for Alabama. Every seat means one more voice for Alabamians in Washington, D.C.
Those single votes do count, and they count in Washington also. So it's huge. It's huge. State of Alabama is a little bit different. Our state delegation, we try to work together. The Republicans and the Democrats, we do get together. We do share information. We do try to get things achieved for the state.
Political analyst Quinn Hillier says each representative is usually on 2 committees, which means Alabama representatives could have a say in 14 committees where policy changes are made.
Somebody in your state has influence on more areas of the law, on more areas of the federal government. And, when those areas affect Alabama interests, you obviously want somebody there looking at it, paying attention to it, and possibly being able to affect it.
While Alabama's seats did not change, Florida did gain a seat, which could help the region on certain issues.
We share a lot of the same needs, especially I-10, if you think about it. I-10 feeds into Florida and obviously Mississippi and Louisiana.
Hillier says now the state will have to deal with population shifts within each district.
So we're going to have to do something to redraw our own congressional district lines. And that's always a contentious process, even when you keep the same number of seats.
Governor Kay Ivey said in a statement earlier today that she's pleased with the numbers, and this means Alabama will continue to have much needed voices in Washington for the next 10 years. Craig? Supporters for both President Donald Trump and Vice President Joe Biden were out in full force in Pensacola on Friday to rally as much excitement as possible for their respective candidates ahead of Election Day. 4 more years! 4 more years! President Donald Trump's supporters lined Langley Avenue just outside of the Pensacola airport hours before he was expected to speak Friday night to express why they want him to be reelected.
We can get back to what we came to do. Jobs, rebuilding America from the military to the infrastructure.
He gets things done. All the things he's done for labor. He's done more for every creed and color of every person in this nation.
One of the leaders of a Facebook group called I'm a Florida Trump Girl says she believes President Trump will improve health care, among other issues.
I also am in women's health, and I help women get their surgeries covered by their medical insurance, so I know how hard it can be. But
President Trump's supporters weren't the only ones expressing their enthusiasm today. The Escambia County Democratic Party organized a special car parade to show Pensacolans the amount of support backing Vice President Joe Biden.
Over the years, people have gotten a mistaken impression that there aren't any Democrats here in Escambia County, but there are. There's about 78,000 of us registered Democrats. And we've been very busy.
The chair of the Escambia County Democratic Party says she's supporting Biden because she feels it's time for a change.
I think they care about people, and we need that right now. We're in a bad way with the pandemic, the systematic racism, the economic problems. We need people who have plans and who actually know what they could do to help people. And we haven't had that in the last 4 years.
We've got to have, government's got to be organized for the sake of foreign policy and, and for both sides of the aisle to work together because, the way it's going right now, everything Trump does is for Trump.
Supporters for both candidates say this is a very important election and they're simply asking everyone to get out and vote. Reporting in Pensacola, Laura Barczewski, NBC 15 News.